Welcome to Eliminating Caregiver Chaos, the podcast where we stop pretending caregiving is just about tasks and start dealing with the real weight you're carrying, the emotional one. I'm DJ Castilleja, and I help family caregivers stop drowning in guilt, resentment, and burnout by teaching them how to actually process their emotions instead of just pushing them down and hoping for the best. Before we dive in, I want you to know this podcast is designed specifically for you, the caregiver on the go. Whether you're driving to yet another doctor's appointment, folding laundry, prepping meals, or stealing a few minutes in your car before you walk back into the chaos, I've got you. You don't need to sit down with a notebook or be in the perfect headspace. Just listen. Let this sink in while you're doing what you need to do. Now, we've been in a series on the barriers and mistakes that are quietly crushing you emotionally as a caregiver, patterns you inherited, not things you chose. And last episode, we talked about the first one, which is minimizing our emotions, brushing things off, saying, I'm fine when you are absolutely not fine. Today, we're going deeper because some of us aren't just minimizing what we feel, we're burying it completely. And that is the second barrier to emotional expression. We call it suppression. This one is sneaky. It feels like strength. It feels like control, but it is silently draining you every single day. So let's dive in. But before we get into today's topic, I want to share a couple of really exciting updates with you because this community deserves to know what's happening behind the scenes. First, and I'm so excited about this, Eliminating Caregiver Chaos is now available on streaming platforms. Whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us there. This has been in the works and it is finally happening. So if you've been listening to us on YouTube, thank you. And now I want you to go find us on your favorite podcast app, hit subscribe, and leave us a review, some comments, how this show has helped you. Give us some feedback. That means the world, and it helps more caregivers find us who really need this content. The second update, and this one is especially for my members, the Caregiver Sibling Resentment course is complete and available right now. I know so many of you have been waiting for this one, and it is packed with everything you need to understand where that resentment is coming from, what to do with it, and how to move forward, whether your siblings step up or not. If you're a member, log in and dig in. And if you're not a member yet, visit us at eliminatingcaregiverchaos.com. The link is also in the show notes. This is exactly the kind of work we do inside our membership, and I would love to have you there. And on top of having so much content at your disposal, content like caregiver planning, caregiver emotions, self-care, and what to do after our loved one passes away with grief support and estate wrap-up and relaunching our life. This is exactly the kind of work we do inside this membership, and I would love to have you in there. Okay, so let's get to today's episode. What is suppression? Now, what exactly is suppression, and how is it different from the minimizing we talked about last week? Minimizing is when we brush off our feelings. You acknowledge them just enough to dismiss them. Suppression goes further. Suppression is the deliberate act of pushing your emotions down so deeply that we try to pretend they don't exist at all. I want you to picture this. Imagine you have company coming over and your house is a wreck. You don't have time to clean, so you start shoving things into the closet, shoes, mail, that pile of laundry you've been meaning to fold, and all of it gets crammed behind that door. You close it and smile, and on the surface, everything looks neat and orderly. But behind that door, the pile grows bigger, messier, harder to contain, and eventually that door won't shut anymore. And everything you've been hiding spills out all at once. That's suppression. Many times I call this, it's like compressing our emotions. And that's what you're doing to your emotions when you refuse to let yourself feel them. Now, I want to be clear about something. If you've been suppressing your emotions, I'm not here to judge you because caregivers suppress for reasons that make complete sense, at least in the moment. And by the way, it's not only caregivers that need to deal with their emotions. Emotional resilience is good no matter what you do. But our focus here today is for caregivers. Sometimes suppression feels like survival. You tell yourself, if I let myself cry, and I mean really cry, I might never stop. If I admit how overwhelmed I am, I'll fall apart completely. And if I fall apart, who's going to take care of everything? Sound familiar? Other times, it comes from a message you internalized a long time ago. Maybe from your family, maybe from your culture, society, that strong people don't show their feelings. Emotions are weakness. Maybe you've heard that. That you are to keep it together no matter what. So you lock all these emotions away and you carry on. These are what I call emotional hand-me-downs, patterns and beliefs passed down through families that were never designed to serve you in a caregiving role. And the problem is when you're operating from those old patterns, suppression doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like strength. But here's what I need you to hear. It is not. So what does suppression actually do to you? Here's the hard truth about suppressed emotions. They don't disappear. They don't just vanish. They can't. They just find other ways out. First, they show up in your body. Tension headaches that won't quit, stomach problems, high blood pressure. Your body keeps the score even when your mind is trying to stay in control. Just last week, I had a stressful event happen, and it was only momentarily. Some news I had received on email and that I had misread. And just for a split second, I could feel the adrenaline and the cortisol coursing through my veins. My heart started beating really fast until I reread it. And by then, it was already too late. My anxious response had already kicked in. And even today, a week later, I'm experiencing shoulder and neck pain from that one event. And it took me hours to calm down. Emotions will begin to leak out in your behavior, in sharp tones with the person you're caring for, impatience with your kids. You might find yourself starting to slam cabinets or slam doors, in sudden outbursts over something that seems so small, so insignificant that you're wondering, where did that even come from? Or the emotions turn inward, and that's when suppression becomes really dangerous. That's when it becomes depression-like. You experience numbness, a sense of detachment from the people and the life you love. And here's what makes suppression different from minimizing and more dangerous in many ways. When you minimize, you might still eventually ask for help. But when you suppress, you can't even admit to yourself that you need help. You walk around convincing everyone and maybe yourself that you have it all together. Meanwhile, those unacknowledged feelings are weighing you down like hidden bricks in a backpack. Every step you take, it gets heavier. And you can't put that backpack down because you can't even see it's there. Before we get into the practical tools, I want to pause here and say something directly to you. If you have been suppressing your emotions, you are not broken. You are not weak. You're not a bad caregiver. You are a person who has been using the only tools you were given, tools that weren't built for what you're facing now. Caregiving is one of the most emotionally demanding roles a human being can take on, and no one handed you a manual on how to manage your feelings while you're managing medications, doctor's appointments, family conflicts, and your own life on top of that. This is why we exist as Eliminating Caregiver Chaos. So if suppression has been your survival strategy, I want to ask you to give yourself some grace. And then I want you to decide you're ready for something better, because there is something better. So the practical tool I want you to use here is what I call name it and release it. The healthier alternative to suppression is not another extreme. I'm not asking you to fall apart. I'm not asking you to live in constant emotional outpouring to every person you meet or make every conversation about your feelings. What I'm asking you to do is create space for honest expression. Because here's what I know to be true: suppression builds walls, but acknowledgement builds release. And the moment you start naming what you feel, you begin loosening the weight you've been carrying. And I ask caregivers when they process this to take 5 minutes, maybe even set a 5-minute timer on your phone. And you're going to do these 3 steps. First, you're going to pause and check in once a day, sometime during the day when you have a break from your busy schedule. It could be in the morning, it can be in the evening, whatever works for you. Pause, stop, and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Not what I'm doing, not what I need to handle next. What am I feeling? Is it sadness? Is it anger? Identify what you are feeling. Step 2, name it out loud on paper. Say it to yourself in the mirror. Write it in a journal, even a single sentence. I feel angry today. I feel scared because I don't know what's going to happen next. I feel exhausted and I don't know how much more I can take. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it or logic your way through it. Just name it. Step 3, acknowledge that it's okay. After you name it, say this: this feeling is valid. I am allowed to feel this. That's it. That simple statement begins to interrupt the suppression cycle. You're not solving the problem in that moment. You're not processing years of trauma in 5 minutes. You are simply opening a small release valve on that closet full of emotions so the door doesn't burst open at the worst possible time. So I want you to try the daily emotional check-in this week, just once a day. See what comes up. See how it feels to stop pushing things down, not addressing it, and start letting yourself be honest, even if it's just with yourself. And if you want to go deeper on this work, if you're ready to stop just surviving caregiving and start leading with clarity and confidence, I want to invite you to check out the Caregiver Emotional Mastery membership. It's where we take everything I just talked about in this podcast and put it into real structured supported practice. Visit us at eliminatingcaregiverchaos.com. The link's also in the show notes. Next week, we're talking about the third barrier to emotional expression, and trust me, this one's going to hit home for a lot of us. Until then, you're doing something incredibly hard. Keep up the good work, give yourself some credit, and remember, the chaos doesn't have to be permanent. We're eliminating it together. Take care of yourself out there, and talk to you next time.